going on, guys, and welcome back to another Pokemon Wi-Fi battle. Today I have an underused match. This one is against Matt from Twitter. First off, I want to say thank you guys for all the supports on my recent Wi-Fi battles. I understand that there's a lot of hype behind the Sun and Moon game coming out, so there's really not that much interest in Wi-Fi. But I'm going to be on my Wi-Fi game, so that way when the game does come out, you better believe that I'm going to be on top of it for Sun and Moon. So I'm using generally the same underused team as I was in the last video, but I decided to switch out my Machamp for Hitmontop to be able to have a Rapid Spinner. So I decided to lead off with my Hitmontop just because it looks like he might lead off with his Empoleon or his Mind Shout. As he does lead off with a Mind Shout, I'm able to get a nice little Intimidate. He probably wanted to go for that, expecting me to lead off with my Registeel. So I'm pretty glad I let off with my my Dancer dude over here, like getting his groove on. So he's gonna U-turn out on the first turn as I expected. I'm gonna go for the Toxic, expecting him to switch, as he does go into the Tangrowth here. So I'm actually pretty stoked being able to get a Toxic, but I missed. So freaking Spaghetti Monster here is not gonna be Toxic yet. And that's pretty annoying because this thing is kind of threatening. I would rather just, I'm just going to stay in and go for another Toxic just because he doesn't really have a whole lot he can do to me. If he does decide to put me to sleep, I'm fine with that. So he does go for the Sleep Powder, and I actually avoid that. So that's kind of funny. I miss my initial Toxic, and then he misses his first Sleep Powder. So it kind of like cancels out. So, that's pretty cool. It's like nothing happened. So at this point, I know he's just going to want to go for the Sleep Powder again, so weighing my options, I realized that Registeel is probably the best to be put to sleep. He has like the least offensive presence on the team, and he can only put one Pokemon to sleep, so I'm fine with that. So I decided it's nap time for Registeel on the battlefield, and Mr. Steelio Girl is not going to be stealing any girls while it's asleep, so now I kind of expect him to go for the knockoff, just wanting to get rid of Registeel's item because this thing's super bulky and it enjoys its leftovers. So I decided to switch into my Mega Houndoom here, who obviously will not lose its item or take really any damage from a knockoff, and I'd have a good matchup against Tangrowth. So I decided to switch into my Blue Doggy, as he actually ends up switching out himself into his Mind Shout again. So that's not the ideal matchup for me. I decided I'm going to switch right directly into Sweet Moves here just to get the Intimidate. I know that after the Intimidate, even if he does High Jump Kick, I should be able to take at least 2 of them. So he actually does go for the High Jump Kick, gets me right in the damn nose, so I'm bleeding all over the place, and at least Hitmontop is able to take 2 of them, so that's pretty good. After the leftovers, I'm looking to be in a pretty good position here, as he's just going to go for one more High Jump Kick, as I go for the Close Combat. So it's a fucking fighting battle, you want, eh? Let me get on top of my head real quick, spin. Hitmontop's animations are fucking amazing. I love this thing in general. So the Close Combat isn't going to be able to knock out the floppy arms thing, but I do have Mach Punch, so that is going to have some priority, and down goes the Mind Shout. And you notice how Hitmontop gets slower after he's like lost health or something? Is that what happened? I didn't even pay attention, but he's slower now, so that's kind of weird. He's still got some sweet moves though, no doubt. But he's now going to switch into his Honchkrow. And Honchkrow is a really scary Pokemon because it doesn't have a lot of switch-ins. If you switch in something that resists the Brave Bird, as I do here, he could potentially have the Heat Wave or the Superpower. So I decided to switch into Registeel here, and obviously Brave Bird isn't going to do anything, but I expect him to potentially have the Heat Wave as his super effective move on Steel types, and this is my specially defensive Registeel, so I would be able to take at least one of them, and then I was hoping to be able to wake up and Thunder Wave it, but it turns out his Steel coverage is actually Superpower. So a critical hit is going to knock me out. I'm not sure if I would have been able to live that. I am a little bit defensive invested, but I don't think I was going to be able to live it in the first place. So unfortunately, my freaking big old ball of steel dies, and he's able to get his Moxie boost. So I now decide to switch into my Sunburnt Lizard here, who's still looking for some fucking aloe vera, some lotion or something. But I decide to go for the Thunderbolts, as he's going to bring back out the Spaghetti, and here I actually get a critical hit with a Thunderbolts. Unfortunately for him, it's going to knock him to the point where a Hyper Voice would actually kill this thing, but I decided that Heliolisk is looking really damn useful for me, so I decided to actually Volt Switch here rather than finishing off the Tangrowth for him to be able to switch in a Revenge Switch. So I decided that I'm going to go for the Volt Switch. It's going to get him to the point where I expected actually Toxic to kill, so that way I could get a switch into something else and then be able to save my Lizard, because this fast motherfucker does some damage, and with a Life Orb, it definitely hurts some stuff. So I decided to switch into my Yanmega here, as he's actually just going to go for the knockoff, which is going to get rid of my Choice Specs. But honestly, really not that big of a deal, as he actually gets his leftovers, and he ends up living this poison. So honestly, that's fine, because that means Yanmega gets to kill something, so that's pretty cool. I'm able to then go for the Bug Buzz, and that is a dead Tangrowth. I really like using Yanmega. It doesn't really get as much love as it deserves, and it looks pretty badass shiny. I mean, it's a fucking Dragonfly. This thing should be Dragon type, but whatever. So he's now going to switch into his Lucario, and I'm like, okay, I got to get an Intimidate on this thing. I have 2 Pokemon with Intimidate. I decide to go into my Gyarados here, and expecting him to be a physical attacker, I was like, oh, I got you now, bro. And it turns out he actually goes for the Nasty Plot. So here, I assumed that after he ran damage calcs, he realized that he wasn't going to be able to take out Gyarados in one hit, so he decided to save his Lucario for later, and he's going to switch into his Empoleon, and I'm just going to go for the Earthquake, which was the obvious play there. And Empoleon does not really enjoy getting hit with an Earthquake. It's not going to quite kill it, but it knocks it to the point where obviously one more will, and I'm faster, so his Empoleon got kind of screwed up there. I don't know what his prediction was, but he's now going to switch that thing out, and he decides to go into his Honchkrow as I actually predict the switch and go for the Substitute. So I'm really stoked to be able to get this matchup with a Substitute. That means that I'll be able to get a free Waterfall. I actually expect him to probably just want to take out my Substitute with a Brave Bird or something, but he actually goes for the Sucker Punch, which was a risky play because I was just about to go for Dragon Dance expecting that, but he got me there. So I just go for the Waterfall just to get some damage because I realize this thing has a damn problem, and unfortunately it doesn't quite kill it there. So at this point, I really don't want Gyarados taking damage, so I decide to switch into Hitmontop here, just to get the Intimidate and maybe hope that he goes for Sucker Punch. That way I could be able to finish this thing off with a fucking Mach Punch. But unfortunately, he actually just goes straight for the Brave Bird, probably just trying to get as much damage as possible on the Gyarados. So down goes my Beyblade dude, and it's kind of unfortunate. I brought this guy just because I know this team is really weak to Stealth Rock, so I kind of just brought him for Rapid Spin support, but turns out I didn't even need it. But Hitmontop's pretty badass nonetheless. Plus, double Intimidate on a team is pretty sweet, so. Now I decide to get a little bit risky with Houndoom here, so I know that he knows that I'm faster than him, so I would be able to ordinarily take him out with any attack here, so I expect him to go for the Sucker Punch, like just to get a little bit of extra damage before he dies, so I go for the Nasty Plot instead, but unfortunately for me, he just goes straight for the Superpower, which is going to take out my Houndoom. I figured that prediction was worth it on my end, just because had it worked, I would have had a nice little Houndoom sweep potentially going, so unluckily for me, Houndoom goes down, and he gets another Moxie Boost, and I'm like, oh shit, is this thing gonna be that big of a problem? Like, oh my god. So I decide to switch into Gyarados just to get another Intimidate. I realize after the Intimidate, he's not gonna be able to take me out here. So I didn't think it was gonna have to come to this, but he goes for the Sucker Punch. He actually gets the play right there. Had I gone for Dragon Dance on that time, that would have been freaking sweet. But he's going to do a little bit of damage to me as I'm then able to finish this thing off with a Waterfall. So down goes the Honchkrow, and that thing caused some damn problems. I almost thought I was about to get swept there for a second, but luckily he did not go for that last Brave Bird. I think actually if he Brave Birded there, that would have been the better play. But he's now going to go into his own Houndoom here, and this is where the true power of Gyarados really shines. This is the bulkiest motherfucker ever. So he's going to Mega Evolve. He goes for the Dark Pulse here, and check this out. Gyarados is not dying today. 4 HP live. And I'm then able to throw some water at this thing, and down goes his Houndoom. So both of our Houndooms went down relatively easily, and it's kind of a shame because these things look super badass. But yeah, so after some leftovers, I'm at like 14 HP, so anything will kill me at this point. But he's now going to switch into his Lucario. So I really don't want this thing setting up, so I decided to just stay in and go for an Earthquake on the off chance that he might predict the switch and go for the Nasty Plot. But he just finishes me off with a Flash Cannon. And yeah, so I lose Gyarados, but I figure that dude did his job. So at this point, now I'm just going to go ahead and switch into my Lizard here, as I know I'm going to be able to outspeed. I'm able to go for a Thunderbolt. I was really crossing my fingers that he didn't have Vacuum Wave, because that would really destroy me at this point. The whole priority deal would definitely mess me up. So it's pretty shitty that my Thunderbolt was not able to kill this thing, because that allows him to go for the Aura Sphere, which takes out my my Helios, which I did not expect. I honestly expected just to kill this thing with the Thunderbolt, but it did not die. So now we both have one Pokemon left. So I go into my Yanmega as he goes into his Empoleon. And the only move that I have that does neutral damage to this thing is Giga Drain. And I have to hope to God he doesn't have Ice Beam. So I go for the first Giga Drain. I actually get a really lucky critical hit, and it doesn't kill him. So I was like, oh shit. But he shows me that he only has Scald. He does not have Ice Beam for coverage. And I'm able to live the Scald with 5 HP with no burn. That allows me to go for one more Giga Drain, and this time it's going to take out the Empoleon. So that was a really close match. Had he carried Ice Beam, I definitely would have lost that match there. A Scald Burn would have also lost it for me. So really, I got super lucky at the end there, but that was an extremely close match. It definitely came right down to the wire, and no Scald Burn for once actually saved my life. So thank you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up button on this video if you enjoyed, and I will see you guys later. Peace out.